there's been a lot of stuff in my career where I feel like, or I just don't know how I kept going or how I, came back from it. I mean, there's things that happen. There's things I've never talked about, like that happened on the Amanda show, and things where some really pretty traumatizing and traumatic, or it's the same word, traumatic and heavy stuff happened, and yeah, to just kind of get back up on the horse and keep going. I sometimes I look back and I don't know really how I did it. I think it was just really loving what I'm doing, and just having, just loving being on stage and loving making records and acting and all of that. So it just kind of, and also not really having a fallback plan, so.
Yeah. Were you like craving being on stage or being in like acting roles? Like, was it worth it?
Yeah, I mean, it's an up and down, it's a peaks and valleys kind of thing where sometimes you just want to, go away and get away from everything. That's actually what a lot of my new album is about just kind of being fed up with Hollywood and what it's done to myself and people I see. I mean, there's so many people that I grew up with that, tragically either ended their lives or didn't make it out, or there's some really, really sad stories, and yeah, and as I was writing this new album, and just so much that's been thrown at me, and I just kind of I don't know if it was consciously or subconsciously, but just as I started writing lyrics, it was kind of, I want to get out of here. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. And it wasn't so much that I didn't want to make records anymore or didn't want to entertain anymore. It was this bubble that is Hollywood that really is toxic, and especially for young entertainers. It really chews you up and spits you out and has no forgiveness and has no use for you when they're done with you. I mean,
they got a big leverage in you from the start.
Yeah, I mean,
they use it,
and that's what they do.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. I mean, and then what they do is they set you up to where, you kind of lose your sense of not what's wrong or right, but just sort of you end up bending and doing things where, well, I don't think that's a good thing to do, but that's what it says in the script.
Yeah.
So I got to say these things, or I have to go and do these things because I'm hired for, and that's what it says in the script. And then you're so worried about,
like, the inertia of the process puts you like in an autopilot, no?
Yeah, totally.
Where you say yes to things that if you were not in that momentum or in that inertia, you would probably
or didn't have the fear of losing this lifestyle that they've kind of set up for you. I mean, when you're doing a show and it's successful and you're young and you can really kind of get everything you ask for, well, they kind of put you into a corner where you're like, well, I don't want to lose my cool car. Yeah. I don't want to lose my apartment. I don't want to lose my, my check every week. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose my, and so you do start to do things that you wouldn't otherwise, and they know it, and that's sort of how they get you.
Yeah.
It's
crazy that to me that you have like this, or you had this like idealization of Hollywood with you being born in California.
Yeah.
Because for me, being born here in Monterrey, I also had that idealization, and I still do, but I live really far away.
Right.
You living in the same state still had like this distance between Hollywood and all the Hollywood world
Yeah.
and the rest of California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely and growing up on old classic Hollywood films and television, and that being drawn more to that than whatever was happening in the day. You really did have the like lights, camera, action, glamour,
Yeah.
red carpets, tuxedos, limousines, and all this sort of thing. And then you get up there and you realize that it's a couple guys in flannel shirts, writing jokes for these people. It's a whole different.
Yeah.
It's a whole different thing. But yeah, I think for young artists and young entertainers, I think it's a lot more tragic and traumatic than people give us credit for, and or give it credit for, and we're held to an unreal standard. We're like I said, it's back to, oh well, now you have to be a good role model and you have to do this and you can't make any mistakes, and if you make a mistake, now we're just and with the media and social media and everything now, I mean, you make one wrong step and all of a sudden, you're just so demonized.
Yeah.
and because you're just held to such an unrealistic standard. Whereas, if I illuminated anybody's lives that were commenting or
Yeah.
clicking on those headlines, what'd you guys do as teenagers?
Yeah.
And now, and also, not only what did you guys do as teenagers, but like, what would you guys do as teenagers if I gave you $1 million?
Yeah.
Oh, would you have gone over and put some in a 401k, and would you got in your IRA, and would you have set some aside, and would you have invested here? No, you would have gone and bought the nicest car, you would have driven it as fast as you can, and you would have lost all your money in a year. I mean, that's just the reality, I mean,
Yeah.
but when you are on the outside looking in, it's like, oh, the tragic life of these young stars and this and that. And it's like, dude, we were just trying to survive and do our thing with no direction. And, I moved out of my house when I was 15 years old and was living on my own. And, it was, yeah. So I think that there's a little bit of, disconnect when you don't put yourself in our shoes,
Yeah, and being held to such a high standard at such a young age may rob you of some fundamental piece or path in your development process. Like,
completely.
it robs you of your youth phase.
Oh, our toolbox is
Yeah.
empty. I mean, we have no tools to navigate adulthood and the right decisions to make with our money, and the right decisions to make within relationships, and the right decisions to make within business, and the right decision. I mean, my life is just riddled with bad choices, and it's a bummer. The learning, you are kind of left to your own devices to figure it all out on your own, and in Hollywood, once you make that mistake, or you go left when you should have gone right, there's all of those relationships that were, hey buddy, you're like, we're together, like we're gonna, they just disappear, and they're like, oh well, we'll go work with agents move on, managers move on, writers, directors, producers, everyone just moves on to the next gig, the next thing, and you're kind of just left there in the dust going, well, I didn't know,
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was supposed to do here. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Because ignorance makes you more controllable for the people
Completely.
at the top. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Probably when they were seeing you spending all your money paycheck by paycheck, they were
Yeah.
smiling because they knew they had your grip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They knew that you were going to do whatever they needed you to do.
But also the tool that you have, that is songwriting, is a really useful tool, because you were telling that your album is about Hollywood
Yeah.
and all your experience. The tool of writing your songs and writing music gives you this useful, like, hindsight perspective that helps you understand what happened.
Yeah.
Because I think writing does that in general, because when you write, you freeze your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and you, like, spot your imperfections and your
Yeah.
contradictions, and hindsight is a really valuable tool to help you learn.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. But also I think that there's this unfortunate part where when something tragic happens in your life as an adult, or something happens to you, it drudges up everything from
Yeah.
the past.
Mm.
So whereas if something happens, I should only be able to deal with that
Yeah,
by
individually,
itself.
yeah.
How
It's like a toxic relationship. When you, like, do something wrong, they bring up things from the
it,
past.
it,
Yeah.
it brings up everything from
Yeah.
the past, and so you end up, you end up self-medicating. And then you make all of the wrong choices when you do that, and then that makes the papers, and you have these problems, and you get to hear all of these people talk about uh whether it's mental health or substance abuse or anything, and they have such sympathy and empathy, um and say, oh, this is a disease, or this is something that you can't, this person needs help. But as soon as you were, as soon as they grew up with you on TV and you make those mistakes, all it is
Yeah.
daggers and attacks, and they try and rip you down, which is something that I really I don't understand, and it makes it a lot more difficult to crawl out of that sort of hole that you find yourself in. So I don't know if I'm getting too deep there, but
No, I appreciate.
but yeah, it's
really,
yeah, it makes it really difficult when you're struggling with something personally, that you see other people, being so strong in their stance of, oh, well, this person needs help, or you can't attack this person, or this person needs to, this person's struggling. But as soon as it's somebody that you grew up with, or they just are
Yeah.
so. It makes it very, very difficult, to open up your phone, or your comment section or something, and have things that are just not supportive.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of support. I don't want to sit here and say, like, oh, I don't have, everybody. You go on my comments on YouTube. I don't have my comments. I don't know if you can on YouTube.
You want me to check your comments?
I don't know if you have it blocked or anything. No, I don't want to. But they're mostly good.
I don't read
I don't want to
comments.
get caught.
I don't read
I don't want to
comments
get caught,
in-
and then all of a sudden, like, have like 10 in a row that aren't good. But
No, I
no,
don't-
the most my luckily, with the things that I've been through, I do have a lot of support, and my fans really have been there for me, especially here in Mexico. They go a little deeper in investigating than just a headline or clickbait. So it has been really helpful for me, but it's still that thing where you go through, you see 10 bad comments, but then that 11th one, they say something that really just is like, oh,
Yeah.
it got me. Oh, this one got me. And then that just sits with you and sticks with you and stays with you. Or some article comes out where you made a mistake, and it's almost as if you they don't give you an opportunity to
redeem yourself.
redeem
Yeah.
yourself.
That's the
It's-
problem with cancel culture.
Yeah.
That there's no redeeming.
Yeah, there's no redemption. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no redemption. Yeah.